The following program is rated TVMA. This program may contain strong opinions, explicit language, and possible adult themes. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the Smoke Free Radio Network or its affiliates. This program is meant for mature adult audience. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
Hey everybody, Mike Peterson coming back at you with another Vaping in the Mic. We're all the way up to episode 25 already, which I kind of find hard to believe. Tonight might be a rather interesting kind of night. I'm not sure how it's going to go. I'm going to assume safely. I'm a hard-headed guy. And our guest tonight, he's just about as hard-headed, and he is full of opinion, which is awesome. And the guy that I am talking about, if you would, is Mr. Matthew Salter. How you doing this evening?
I am doing great. I literally had a world of everything go on right before I popped on. Good buddy called me. He was broken down about a half mile away, so I had to go jump him. And of course, I got the 3 kids tonight, and wife's with our oldest at cheer practice. So it's just, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Come on, let's go. I got to get it done.
No, I figured that, I'd go along, and I knew you'd be in here sometime. But I always see...
It's the same way with the Legion shows. I'm always popping on right at the last second, right before the buzzer.
I feel when I use Zoom and somebody joins in, it's got that nice doorbell sound.
Yep.
And I keep feeling like I want to play Paul McCartney and Wings. Somebody's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. I'm like, yeah, here we are. You and I have an awful lot of things that I would really like to discuss.
Okay.
And we may not see eye to eye on some of it, which I don't mind. Very first thing, because it is one of the most prominent things. Mm-hmm. How are you affiliated with the New York State Vapors Association?
So I'm simply just a member.
Okay.
I don't hold an office or anything like that. I think that'd be the exact opposite of what they want me. No, I don't hold an office or anything like that. I'm just a member. I was actually at one point last year their biggest detractor. I didn't trust them for anything because of their previous affiliation with New York Safada and kind of the way that went down. Like I went to one New York Safada meeting about 2 years ago and was just absolutely disgusted at what I seen. So I was very vocal that I'm not a fan of them. This is just another iteration of BS. And
yeah.
Real quick, how family friendly do you like to keep it?
Dude, I am wide open for the people, and I make the disclaimer right at the very beginning. I try not to use. I was so much going to put your parenthetical middle name up, but I looked at my wife. I said, "Honey, I can't do that. that is like her worst."
It used to be a lot worse, just because it was just
Yeah.
But as I've evolved, we've decided that I've become more of a philosopher, so to speak. So that's where that sir part comes in. But
my entire.
I'm just asking because I talk with a lot of curse words. We'll say.
Oh yeah.
It's just part of my everyday vernacular.
Mine too, dude. It is part of the English language. I use it all. My children are not immune to it. They have grown up with me saying fuck all the time.
Amen.
It's one of my favorite words. Sometimes I try to keep shows nice because some of my family might tune in from time to time.
Right.
But I tell them, look, and tonight is one of those nights. If people are offended by excessive foul language, you may just want to go watch or listen to something else. Because I'm sure the explicatives will run rampant in the next hour or so. So Tell me, what the hell turned you around with New York?
With NYSVA? Truth be told, it was action. And I know that's not a word that we hear a lot or see a lot in this industry anymore.
No.
I knew that, like, last year we were facing a flavor ban.
Right.
We were facing, let's see here. The 100 mils and over was going to be considered intent to distribute, just like drugs.
I remember that. That fucking floored me.
You could only have
like,
100 mils or less. And it's funny because the politicians in New York really didn't understand or grasp what 100 mil looked like. And I love this story from NYSVA. They actually went in during their meetings, which they actually, I don't want to say they highly publicized it, but I was able to see that they were actually meeting with our politicians, our senators and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They set a can of Coke down on the table right in front of the politician, and they put a 100 mil bottle right next to it, and they said, "This is what you're saying people are distributing." And the politician goes, "Wait a second, what's that?" And they go, "That's a 100 mil bottle." Or that's a 120. They actually showed a 120 because it'd be 20 mils over the legal limit. And they're like, "Wait a second, we're doing what?" And it kind of clicked.
That's awesome. And damn good use of visual aesthetic.
Oh, absolutely. Because a lot of these politicians, they have no idea what they're doing. They only see what, like, Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids wants to show them. Or, with Cuomo, in instance, if he says anything, these guys jump on it like white on rice. Like, they absolutely love it's King Cuomo. I mean, I don't know if you followed their Larry Sharp campaign, who was running for governor against Cuomo this year.
Mm-hmm.
But he kept calling him King Cuomo because that's how it is. Every politician, every big business bends down and kisses his ring. And, it's absolutely ridiculous. The other big thing is the executive director, Michael Frenger, actually walked into the vape shop where I worked at, and introduced himself and said, we're doing this little seminar conference type thing down in Syracuse, which is only about an hour away from me. And he goes, "We'd really appreciate it if you came down and checked it out." So I was just like, really? Kind of inviting the bear into the fucking, little squirrel pit there, but okay, that works for me.
Yeah.
So we only went down for the informative day, I'll call it. We didn't go down for like the mixers or the meet and greets, anything like that. But the information they presented was just super solid. I mean, they had the lobbyists there, they had their lawyer there, who their lawyer actually does a lot of the same things I do with compliance. So that really kind of like sucked me in.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Fig was there.
Fig's awesome.
I think Conley was there for a few hours. He was wicked booked that weekend, but just an amazing panel. And I sat there for, the 8 to 10 hours it was, and I listened and really absorbed everything. And I got to have conversations one-on-one. And I said, damn, these guys, they're doing it. I saw that action. That's all I've ever asked to see out of any trade organization. Don't tell me what you plan to do. Show me what you've done. And New York NYSVA really just they're like, we don't care if you don't like us, and they just did it. And I'm just like, you know what? That's what I like.
See, that rings so many bells for me, because I look at state organizations and I see a few that do things, and I look at national organizations.
Yeah.
And I want to grab the Reader's Digest and head to the bathroom and take a shit.
Here's the thing. You'll always hear me or see me screaming from the top of the mountain, support your state group. Why? Because state groups are the ones who are doing it. They're beating flavor bans. They're beating T21s. They're beating off-the-wall ordinances. I mean, Florida was the first one that I've seen actually lose anything, when they lumped vaping indoors in with the friggin' fracking.
Oh, my God. That was...
It made sense that was going to pass, because nobody's going to say yes to fracking. Like, honestly. Look at Illinois. They just beat T21 by 3 votes.
Yeah.
Because their state group put in that work. They went to their capital. They took the meetings with the senators and legislators, and their lobbyists worked their ass off, and they came out on top. Federal, look, I got my favorites, and they're not even really a favorite.
See,
they're just kind of.
This is the thing. It is a real pain for me at points in time, because I'm a manufacturer, and yet I like interviewing people, and I like talking to people, and I like getting them on the air and listening to things that they have to say. And I don't voice my own personal opinion that often.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at national groups, I see such a disconnect between the shops that I go to, a lot of them, and anything that says national. There's even the sharp disconnect between a lot of shops in Ohio and OHVTA. You know,
Right.
and that's everywhere. A shop goes, well, I'm not going to pay them $100 a month. Who gives a shit? If you don't want to, that's fine. But realize when T21 rolls around into your city, and it will, nobody from OHVTA is going to be coming up to your place.
Right.
You know? I don't know. I don't know how to express some of my disappointment for some of the national groups.
Well, see, here's the thing. I mean, for so many years, and I've been a vapor, I think, I want to say since 2014. Yeah, April 2014, I quit because I had pneumonia. It's for so many years with the national groups, it was basically just give us money, shout us out on Facebook, and let us do our job. You know, they weren't offering any information. They weren't offering solutions to anybody or saying, hey, what's your input? And I really think kind of the narrative the FDA's taken, the pathway they're taking, and then the way that the warning letters have come out, the regulations have come out, that's forced their hand to change. So, I mean, we have two national organizations, VTA and SFATA. SFATA has probably the most checkered history out of any organization in the past, especially for vaping, period. And they had a lot of leadership changes. I think they went through 4 executive directors in a span of 5 years.
Wow.
They had numerous state groups closed down. They were getting stuck with the bill for the lobbyists for those state groups. You know, there was so much turmoil that it really off-put a lot of people. And from the ashes of SFATA, we'll say, birthed VTA. A lot of the VTA board members now are previous SFATA board members. You know, they felt there was going to be a better way. We need to do this right and do it how we see fit. So they, I don't want to say they defected because it was really dead, but they moved over. And, you know, we've seen what's happened. Ron Tolley used to sit on the board. Now Ron Tolley sits in a federal penitentiary for federal embezzlement and like racketeering charges. You know, it wasn't he wasn't a good guy. He's still not a good guy. And then when we got Tony is a lawyer and lobbyist.
Right.
He's done that for a number of years.
90 seconds.
Oh, shut up, bitch. I said it for like 2 hours, and now it's telling me that I'm running out of time. I'll take care of that in a minute.
You know, and then they've.
Thank you
let's
for
be
using
honest.
Blog
VTA's
Talk
got
Radio.
the money.
Goodbye.
VTA's got the money. VTA's got big members, but now we're starting to see where those big members are shooting VTA in the foot.
Now, you're saying that, let me roll back just one thought. Where in your mind does the AVA fall in?
So
and I'm
I have
asking
the
you, this
biggest
is just
love-
your personal opinion.
Right. Yeah, this is all my personal opinion. I have the biggest love-hate relationship with Greg Conley ever.
Really?
So Greg Conley was actually at that New York SFATA meeting. That was my first time ever seeing him. I didn't even meet him. I just saw him. And his mannerisms at the time led me to believe some things were untrue. And I kind of ran with it because I was a very vocal idiot back then, we'll say. You know, if I thought it, I spoke it. It doesn't matter if it was true or had any credibility. I ran off at the mouth, you know. So I was saying he was using drugs and all this stuff. And the biggest thing that we disagree on is he is pure tobacco harm reduction. He believes in the IQOS. He believes in snus. He believes in vaping. Whereas I'm very much a purist of solely vaping. I don't see I see the science behind IQOS being healthier. Great, don't give a shit. You know, I see snus being healthier. Great, don't give a shit. You know, it's to me vaping's like the one true way.
Yeah, I don't, and I have not, and it's part of my problem is I have not taken the time to educate myself about all these other things.
Right.
If it's not a vapor related product, I don't know much about it. That's my fault. Simply for I could talk to Kevin Crowley until I'm blue in the face about tobacco harm reduction,
Right.
and he could educate the shit out of me. Okay. But I
Yeah.
have not taken that opportunity to do so because I'm so, like you, I'm so geared on vaping.
Right.
This is what I do. I don't do all these other things.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I have to say Greg Conley does a fantastic job. Um, I don't view the AVA as a national organization. I view it kind of as Greg's a lone wolf doing what he does, almost like a specialist, we'll call him. And I mean, he can go in his thing, and his name carries some weight with politicians and other groups. And the PR media he's done for the vaping industry has been absolutely stellar. Um, I mean, minus the parts where he preaches other tobacco harm reduction alternatives, but it is what it is.
Right.
I don't see him as like being a group. I don't think he really has board members, or if there is, nobody's ever certainly
You're
heard
going
of
to hear
him.
this thing reconnecting for a second.
That's fine.
My apology.
Also, no, you're fine. AVA, it's Greg Conley doing what he does.
Start your show now. Press 1.
We already
Your
started
show
the
is scheduled to start in 20 seconds.
Oh, that's nice, sweetheart.
At least she's got a nice British voice.
Yeah.
Very soothing.
Could you imagine if it was some... I'm not even going to say it. Never mind.
Like,
Wow.
can you imagine
Your
Gordon
show will go
Ramsay?
live in 5 seconds. 4, 3,
Sounds like a
2,
bomb's going to go
1.
off or some shit. Beep.
Or the T's done, either one.
Talk Radio.
Now it'll run for 90 minutes. And if it doesn't, that's just tough shit. See, I interviewed Greg and had a show with him. And unfortunately, back at that point, I didn't have the capability, horsepower in my PC or a webcam or anything, or even Zoom. I
Right.
had this little dinky mixer, and I was just happy as a pig in shit to be able to get on the air and talk to people. And I want to get back to him because there are things that he has said or done that kind of opened my eyes. But it's one of the reasons that I was honestly kind of excited to talk to you this evening, because you have said a lot of things that I listen to. Now, I'm one of those guys that will take 24, 48 hours and think about it. I won't
Right.
say shit. Unless it's just one of those things that irritates the shit out of me right now. And, then I'm that keyboard warrior and fuck you. And, but there are things that you have said that really pique my curiosity, and I agree with. And there are things that make me go, the fuck is in your vape?
Okay.
So those are the kind of things that I want to talk about. But one of the biggest things, and it's why I asked you about your affiliation with New York State Vapors Association, is they are facing, again this year, a flavor ban. And you have been driving extremely hard doing a fundraising to raise $75,000 to be able to help fight that shit.
Yeah, we're facing the most extreme flavor ban known to man. Even California hasn't seen one of this magnitude. It's going to make it illegal to possess at a consumer level, essentially. So say you get pulled over just like you would with pot and get a ticket, an appearance ticket to court. Depending on the amount you have on you, you might get taken into jail for a weekend or even worse. That's effectively what they're going to do with e-liquid. You are going to be charged with a misdemeanor for carrying e-liquid, like flavored
How the hell
e-liquid.
can they do that?
It's the state, man. State can do so much more scarier shit than the federal ever thought they could.
Oh my God.
There is less checks and balances at the state level. Dude, and you know who's scarier than the state level? Local level.
I
Health
know.
boards can literally do whatever they feel like doing. There is no check to a health board.
No, and I've been noticing that everywhere. T21 this or bans or thinking, you've
And that's what frightened us about this one initially, is because the New York State Department of Health jumped the gun almost 3 months and put out that they were going to be seeking a flavor ban against New York State. And literally it went up less than 24 hours. It was retracted due to, they said they needed to look into the legal abilities of the NYS DOH.
Yeah. And that means that they were going to wait until the first of the year.
Well, yeah, they have to wait till session starts, so it kind of, their little snafu did one of two things. A, it put all of us on notice as to what's coming, which in hindsight for them could be very bad.
Yeah, but for you and other people in New York that really give a shit,
Yeah.
that's like an awesome heads up.
Oh, huge heads up, because now we can have strategy for 3 months. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
However, on the flip side, we've also kind of thought maybe they did it for a reason. New York State is huge, absolutely huge on taxation. So what myself and a few others think is they dropped that little nugget of what they're going to be doing in January to get us to start thinking about maybe, I don't want to say conceding on things, but offering some things, like maybe a small percentage tax on wholesale, or maybe offering T21. You know, just a little something for them to grease their pockets and make them look good.
Oh, that's an interesting kind of thought. Hi, we're going to scare the shit out of you, and we're going to ban everything that you want to even think about vaping. But, oh, wait. If you do agree some taxation and raise the age limit to 21, we'll let it go.
Right.
But
as long as they get their money, they're happy.
Here's the donkey's kick. They're going to do it again next year.
Well, potentially.
You know, or the year after.
That's the tough part. I mean, that's why you never ever want to concede, essentially. Now, you can agree with common sense regulation. I actually did an interview with my local news team on that when they passed the indoor flavor ban. But they did a special carve out for vape shops. So as long as you derive 75% of your income from vapor products, you can still vape in vape shops. You know?
And that's common sense.
That's perfect. So I can't be an asshole and go to the movie theater and vape, or I can't be a jerk at a Walmart and blow flat clouds, bro.
Yeah.
And, you know, okay, great. If I can't smoke there, I shouldn't be able to vape there. Understood. Like, that's common sense. That's courtesy.
There's a lot of people that actually disagree with you on that.
Oh, dude, the day I did that news interview and it released, I got so much hate mail. It wasn't even funny.
I've talked to people and I'm like, no, if they're saying that you can't smoke, well, vaping is not as harmful as smoking. No shit, we know that.
Right.
Okay, well, then we should be able to vape. No. Because what you guys do is you go in and you take your big honkin' truck battery mod and you blow clouds that are fucking 18 feet long, and Granny over there is choking. Yeah, something like that, a hammer of God. Is that what that is?
That is a Mad Modder 4500 with the lovely 52.8 millimeter Colorado by Vaporgate on top.
That's the Colorado.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I call it my party piece. I don't vape it on the regular, but if I want to show off a bit.
Dude, that's got to drain the battery like right now.
That's the great part about the 4500, dude. I could vape all day.
Are you kidding me?
4500 with like running it at 100 watts, I get about 3 days.
Jesus.
And that's before I even have to think about charging the battery. But
wow. No, when they came out with that Colorado, I took a look at that, and it was funnier than hell because Michelle, who's a manager at a vape shop, she had turned around, tell them I said hi.
Yeah, kids, they're eating dinner, and they're like, oh, I don't like the coleslaw. Well, don't eat it then.
Yeah, don't eat it. But when that came out, Michelle had turned around and she had said, you know, there are so many posts in this thing that I actually need a roadmap in order to wire it. And I'm like, really? So I got online and I looked it up and I'm looking at this. That thing holds like, what, 8 coils?
Actually, the max record right now is 47. Somebody crammed 47 coils into that RDA. And the beautiful thing about it is you can actually remove some of the positive posts. The negative posts are all milled directly into the deck, but you can remove some of the, like all the positive posts if you really want to. It wouldn't make sense because it wouldn't work. But you can actually bring it down. There's so many configuration options to it.
Oh my God. That thing is just unreal.
Yeah, I saw it. I like stupid, ridiculous things. Like, and that's with everything in my life, not just vaping. Like, I mean, that's another of my massive honking pieces.
Wow.
Yeah, that tank holds 30 milliliters of e-liquid. Like,
I feel like a little piss on enough.
No, but what's funny is you'll see me most of the time with like an NV Fit Mini and a fucking Kabuki on top.
Yep. All right, so New York State Vapor just had a conference
Yep, we had the second annual conference.
How did
which
that
was
go?
even better this time. I'll say this: there weren't as many attendees, but the panel they had was just absolutely stellar. We had our lobbyist; she actually was supposed to be there, but we also got a very bad snowstorm that same weekend, so she ended up coming over on Skype. Mary Belasca from Xanacorn, which is our lawyer slash compliance girl, who absolutely fantastic. Um, the thing I like about her the most is she's been around the block with this industry, and beyond that, like she did all the original compliance work for like Jenny Craig and their food line, and she's just worked with the FDA for the last 25 years. Like she's just an absolute gem in this industry that nobody knows about. Um, we had people from the R Street Institute there. What's his name? Alex Clark was there, of course, because he actually lives in New York now, which is nice. Can't remember his name from Americans for Tax Reforms. Paul Blair. Paul Blair was there. I was really excited to meet him and get to hear him speak. I mean, we had 18 speakers, I think it was, close to that. I mean, Safata board was there. Mark Anton and April Myers, both awesome people to meet, and they kind of told us the direction that Safata was going to be taking this year, and they explained the YEP program, which is nice because that's another case of an organization showing action versus just talking about the actions they want to take. They actually put it into place. And there's some fine tuning that needs to be done, but it's a really good educational piece for schools and for youth to not use e-cigs or vaping products.
Right. And that's important. I just had a quick message from Bill Tarling.
Oh, I love Bill.
So he said, so that Colorado is not an MTL, right?
No, I'd probably die if I tried mouth plug again.
He cracks me up.
But yeah, Naked, as always, because they've done it a ton with Figgy over at Vape Tithing, they said, you know what? New York needs help. They understand the importance of New York not falling to this flavor ban.
Mm-hmm.
They said, we're going to do 75K challenge. We're going to be the first ones to throw in 10K to kick this thing off without even batting an eye. Check was in, done, call it a day. And we've been fortunate enough that some other bigger manufacturers and distributors have followed suit. Medusa Distribution threw in 10K.
Wow.
My good friends at Pinnacle CBD, who aren't even a vape company, threw in 5K, and that
Michael
just absolutely blew my mind. Now, I mean, like, one of them owns a vape shop and one of them owns a juice line, but they aren't really in the vape industry. Like, that's their juice line's really just for their shops.
Wow.
Their main focus is CBD, but a CBD company donated to a vape trade organization because they understand the importance of not losing a state to bad regulation. Because hey, they could be next.
Now, what? I'm trying to phrase these in a decent manner. And California just came up this morning. Greg Connolly posted about it. I think it was the first one. So now it looks like there's a foot race to see if either one of these states are going to fall to a vape, just the outright flavor ban. They want to ban all flavors across tobacco and vapor in California and everything else.
It's almost like California's its own little country now.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do the most wildest shit. No, they basically looked at New York and said, oh, you guys are proposing a flavor ban, huh? Well, we've already got a few, so let's go statewide with that. California, I just wish California would kind of keep California, but unfortunately it is the other bookend state from New York.
Yeah.
So we may have a dick measuring contest between the two states who can screw some more shit up for the vapor industry than the other. I have faith in NYSVA when it comes to New York. California ain't got shit for a state trade group.
No, comparative, they do not. This is what I try to talk to people about. They say, why is it always California or New York or one of the other states that are just about like that are always the first ones to jump into taxation and things like this? And I tell them, you have got to go look and understand something called the MSA.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you understand the MSA, you will understand that California and New York are the top two money-making revenue streams from selling combustible tobacco cigarettes. And they don't want to lose that revenue stream.
No, they don't.
At all.
Because here's the big problem with New York. 57% of the cigarettes sold in New York are untaxed from reservations. Because we have such a high populace of reservations. We have like 22 reservations or something in the state of New York.
No shit.
And that's where we all get cigarettes from. We would drive down to the reservation. It's literally 45 minutes away. $30 a carton, no problem. Especially when New York State has a $6.85 cigarette tax. So a pack of cigarettes in New York State costs between $12 to $15, depending on what brand you buy. The lowest price you can buy a pack of cigarettes for is about $10.50. And that's like your dirt cheap, like beyond lower USA Golds, like Sonoma level.
Oh my God.
You know, whereas and the great thing about the cigarettes from the reservation is they're locally grown right there at the reservation. You know, they have the actual cigarette packing facilities right on site. They have the distribution facilities right on site. You know, so you're getting, no cigarette is harmless or less harmful than any other cigarette, but you're not getting a lot of the BS chemicals from, say, Marlboro or Pall Mall than you are, with a reservation cigarette. It's a little bit cleaner, we'll say.
Right.
You know, and plus you couple that with the fact that I can buy 2.5 cartons at the rate as 1 carton of Marlboros. Like, a carton of Marlboros in New York's $130. There's even more taxes on cartons. Yeah, it's ridiculous. People drive to PA too. Like, you get a pack of Marlboros for $5.10 down in PA.
Yeah, that's about what it's at here. I think it's around 6 something. The last time I walked into the gas station, reminds me of Eddie Murphy selling cigarettes out of the back of the truck in his movie, whatever the hell it was.
We have a lot of gas stations that do that. That's how they call them Lucy's. 25 cents a piece. Go get a cigarette.
God.
It's completely illegal. Completely illegal. But that's why New York State is so protective of what tobacco sales tax they get, is because they're only getting a sliver of that pie. And they can't do anything about the reservations. They can't touch them, period. They've tried in tons of different ways, and they can't.
Yeah, that's a huge problem for them.
Yeah, they literally have like 37% of taxes going to them. And, of course, so now, of course they're going to come after vaping, because the more vapors that convert, that's going to eat away at both chunks of the pie, but they have the smaller piece, so that pisses them off even more. And, the MSA...
See, now that explains a hell of a lot to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because here in Ohio, okay, we don't have a reservation, to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So when vaping goes up and cigarette sales goes down, yeah, they start to become concerned. But in New York, yeah, they start eating into any portion of that. And you start talking tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenue for the state. And people, if anybody's watching or listening later on, go look up the information about the Master Settlement Agreement and educate yourself a little bit, because you will see that the tobacco companies are paying out billions of dollars. And we're saying in a year's time, over $100 million, like $300, $500, $700 million to states based on how many cigarettes they sold.
Mm-hmm.
People forget about this.
Against that, and now they can't pay them back.
Yeah, that's when you start talking about tobacco bonds and everything else.
That's why that's why New York State just legalized MMA. Actually, they needed additional revenue income. We've been illegal for MMA fighting since I was a kid.
No shit.
They allowed boxing, but it wasn't like HBO boxing. It was very regulated. Like, it was fun to watch, but it wasn't great to watch, But they just literally legalized MMA, so now we can, if you're a fan of MMA, you obviously know about McGregor going off in the Barclay Arena and throwing the horse gate through the bus window, and that's how he ended up with the last UFC fight. But, that was the first MMA match in New York after they legalized it. Way to go, guys.
Wow.
That's why they're also looking at legalizing marijuana. Our medical marijuana policy is hilarious, because you can't smoke it for the medical marijuana policy, but you can vape it. They want you to vape it, or they want you to eat it. And yet they're trying to stifle vaping.
Wow. The only thing that I could tell them, okay, Do you want to get rid of my flavored e-liquid with nicotine, but yet you want me to liquefy marijuana and stick in this same device? I would have to look at them and say, you know what? Bite me. No. Yeah, I've seen, it's like in Canada. Canada opened up for recreational across, wall to wall. And I think within the first week, they damn near sold out of all their stock. And they were running low on everything, And you hear the stories coming out of Colorado, saying Colorado is making so much money in excess taxes, because
they had to Colorado literally had to give their people, their inhabitants back money because they paid off all their state debt. They funded schools. They funded roads, Department of Public Works. They funded everything to the brim for like the next 25 years and still had so much money from pot sales. They literally gave it back in the form of like an income tax rebate. Canada paid off its national debt in one day. Let's put it that way.
See, I did not know if that was a piece of news that was true or if that's just, fake news.
I have this thing where if I see one piece of what I could consider fake news, like if it's got a weird kind of URL to it, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. It's bullshit. Yeah. If I see 5 or more and they don't link to the same website, I'll give it 75% credence. And then I've heard from friends that is actually pretty close to the truth. So I'm just like, fuck it. That's truth to me. Works for me.
Wow.
And Bill, if I'm wrong, will definitely correct me. I know he will.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Of course, now's the time my phone wants to go berserk.
Oh, sure.
Everybody's tagging me in different vape groups. Did you see this? See that? I mean, today's news was kind of huge.
Well, let's hold on that for just a moment. Let's talk about one more thing.
I love a man who has a schedule. Thank you.
Oh.
Well, not so much a schedule, but a plan of action.
Oh, yeah. No, I try to keep myself regulated when I do this because
good.
I do a rewind show to where I just sit down and bullshit. And I did one with Paul Blameyer out of Australia. Mm-hmm. And before I knew it, time was gone. The same thing with Tony Ottoman in LA.
Oh, God,
Tony and I started talking, and the same thing with Vig. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I looked
Vig's
at the clock. Talker. Yeah, but we started at like 12:30 and finished at 2:45 in the morning. I'm like, Fig, dude, we got to stop.
You ever get a chance to drink with Fig, take it up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so imagine this. Dimitri's basement with some of the largest manufacturers and distributors, half the Legion, Fig, Alex Clark from Casa, except he doesn't drink. He was kind of in the corner all night. But we're all drinking, having a good time.
Was that at the Tennessee Expo?
It was right after at Dimitri's house.
Oh.
You never imagine this group of people getting together, playing poker, drinking, having
He
some
asked
food,
me,
but...
he goes, so you coming over to play poker? I'm like, dude, I got to go home. He goes, no, you're going to come over to play poker. I said, honest to God, I've got to drive home because I've got to get back to my day job.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have been there. Yeah, I heard about that. Oh, during the show, Fig came over. I give him a hug, and he's walking around with this glass, and there's brown liquid in it. Well, all right, Fig, we know that's not Coke.
Right.
It's not Coca-Cola, and it sure as hell ain't Pepsi.
Yeah, me and Fig are Jameson buddies.
Oh, there is no way. Now, if you get into Patron, then we'll start to talk.
If I'm having tequila sunrises, I like Patron. Those are the only girly drink I like.
Nope, it's just straight out ice and Patron, or just give me a chilled shots of Patron. That's it. And the people that I told this to a friend of mine. He goes, you need the lime and the salt, and I said, those are fucking training wheels. Drink like a man. He goes, so what do you do? Just put it in a shot glass? Yes. Put it in a shot glass. Anyhow. Oh, she's fine, dude. My kids are grown now, but I remember those days. If she wants to stop over and say...
and tell them, like, if I'm at my computer doing work and you see, like, videos up, that means I'm talking about vape-related things, and you guys need to not be in the camera. I keep my kids know my desk is that off-limit zone.
Yeah.
Sit in my recliner all you want, but you ever come near my desk and you're at life may end.
The things that you have been able to hear during the conference for New York State Vapor Association, does it leave you with a positive feeling that you can actually, that the state group can actually push back, forestall, or absolutely kill a flavor ban? Or
100%.
Or are you worried?
No. 100%. I know that NYSVA can get this job done. All right, we'll say 99% because nothing's absolute.
Right.
You know, if Cuomo gets that wild hair up his ass to do what he wants to do, then he'll do what he wants to do. But we have an amazing lobbyist who has great connections within the circles of politicians we need to be in. It is a little tougher this year because the Republicans that we did have for support all got voted out, and now we're completely blue. And historically, New York with completely blue doesn't favor the vapor industry.
No.
You know, we have some of vaping's public enemy number ones like Nita Lowey and Linda Rosenthal, who I fucking hate with a passion because she's dense. Like, you can't. The Kardashians are smarter than this lady is, and it blows my mind.
Oh my God.
But we also have some wonderful Democratic support. I'd have to find it, but there's this absolutely awesome. It was a legislative hearing, closed, just the Senate. And she was like, oh, they're vaping aerosol and it's vaping drugs and it's worse than heroin and blah, blah, blah. And this Republican from the Bronx stood up and he just goes, lady, are you stupid? Like, just started setting her straight. He goes, I quit smoking with this. This is so much healthier. Look at the studies from overseas. And just, what? Oh, it was amazing.
Yep.
But
It made me wonder because I don't know what's going to happen in California. To me, that is a coin toss.
I'm worried about California for the simple reason they don't have a solid state trade group.
No.
I'm sorry. I don't like Stefan Didek. I don't think he's done anything good. If anything, I think he's fucked California up worse. And they have nothing. I mean, I know a lot of guys out there who are trying to get something going, who have tried to get something going, who've dumped money into the state to get something going, and just nothing ever takes off. Now, more than likely what we're going to see is with VTA's 50 state initiative program, go scoop that up and put in a team of lobbyists, because if California falls very much like New York, it's going to send shockwaves through the states.
The minute that they started doing flavor bans in California is when you started seeing an increase in T21 in all other states. You saw an increase in interest in flavor bans,
Right.
absolute indoor air bans, and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Just started like overnight. I'm like, shit, here it comes.
See, and that's the great thing. Like, California was very public with everything they were trying to regulate. New York was dealing with the same things, but NYSVA very quickly and quietly took care of them, which is what I got to see that most other people didn't during that time period, because I obviously follow it very closely on my own personal level.
Yep.
And I would hear about these things and I'd be paying attention as to what's happening. And then I'm seeing NYSVA at the state capitol taking meetings with the right people they need to be talking to. And next thing you know, that bill is tabled, or that bill goes away, or that bill stalls. And I'm like, okay, and that's really what converted me over to NYSVA. That's what I'm talking about with seeing that action.
And that's important because other people that are even thinking about it, if they can hear you used to being an opponent and now you are a proponent, it will definitely help them out. We're going to take just a couple of minutes. I'm going to do our sponsor slot.
Okay.
Because without
That's
our
actually perfect.
sponsors, Smoke Free Radio could not happen. So we'll be back here in just a minute.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. Some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. The lovely Shell with a vapor bar, locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to Vaping and the Mic with Mike Peterson.
And we're back here with Matthew Salter. The next thing that I really want to ask you, and it's a dual or maybe even a triple piece. It has come to light that Big Tobacco is going to take what they say is a minority stake in Juul.
Yeah. So here's the funny part about that, and I've actually talked about this with a couple people. Altria isn't a holding company. You know, they don't buy just small chunks of companies and hold them. No. So what this alludes to is more than likely what we're going to see is they're going to buy a large minority share, probably upwards of 49%. They're probably going to take the biggest minority share they can get.
I said the exact same thing to somebody.
Then they're going to let Juul do what they do, file the PMTAs and whatnot, and kind of put some financial backing into those PMTAs and also their names and everything. And they're gonna coddle Juul through the PMTA process and all the regulatory gates they gotta jump over. And then when everything's saved, then it's just Juul. They're going to take them over completely. Altria is not in the business of just buying small pieces of companies. They're about taking over.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I knew. You know, they get in there and they seriously want, I'm going to put my hand around the company's throat and I'm going to throttle the shit out of you until I control you. And that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with that being said, and I'm going to ask you your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
To you, being both an advocate and an activist,
mm-hmm.
in your viewpoint, how does this coincide, pose a problem, however you'd want to say it, for the VTA having Big Tobacco owning a portion of a board member?
Well, so I believe it was last week's Legion episode. We actually had Tony and Troy LeBlanc on. And the reason why we had them on is because a lot of shop owners and companies that are affiliated with VTA, they asked the same question. Juul just threw us under the bus. VTA's had 3 weeks to respond, and they haven't said a damn thing. You know, this is back when Juul said we're going to pull our flavored pods from convenience stores, or we're going to pull them from the market period, and then we're going to put all these regulatory age gateways and all that good shit in.
Right.
It was a slap in the face to the open source industry, period. And a lot of people want to know, why hasn't VTA said anything? They're a platinum board member. Platinum board member of VTA means you've paid in $100,000 or more. So with Altria potential, the fallout from that was, it was Tony saying we didn't know what they were going to say. Essentially, in a nutshell, they joined the VTA, they donated money. They didn't have a whole lot of input on anything. They talked on the phone a couple times, met a couple times, whatever. Essentially, the way we look at it is, in my opinion, Juul did whatever with VTA as kind of a way to keep us happy, the open source industry, and make it look like they're not the enemy.
Uh-huh.
But so now it presents an even bigger interesting issue with the fact that Juul still technically sits on the board of VTA. You know, because they can't. It's not like they can remove Juul. If they were to be bought out, that'd be kind of frightening. I don't think it would bode well for VTA.
To me, and this is just my opinion, because I spent more than a decade working in corporate America.
Right.
And working for a company that was a baby company of GM, Ford, Chrysler, Bell and Howell. Okay, so I've worked for. It has conflict of interest written all over it.
That's to say the least.
You know, and I don't know how are they even thinking of rectifying that.
Well, it does present a conflict of interest, and it also does it on the flip side because VTA is a little bit different. Their executive director, Brittany Cushman, she is ex-Altria, and she's actually still a lobbyist for the cigar industry. You know, so it's a little weird there. You know, some of their board members are previous ex-Big Tobacco. Some of their lobbyists are previous ex-Big Tobacco lobbyists. And a lot of people thinks that kind of lends to their professionalism or what they know what they're doing. And I don't like it whatsoever. I'll be honest. That's why I'm not a member of VTA, is because no, this is the issue. We're deemed a tobacco product. Gottlieb has said numerous times, distance yourself as far away as you can from combustible tobacco. And these organizations just want to fucking bring them together. And I get it, because Big Tobacco has money. Vapor industry does not. We have enough money to scrape by. I mean, if you ever take a look at the figures of what like Altria spends on anti-tobacco marketing, funny enough,
oh my God,
like $300 million a year.
Yeah.
This industry doesn't have that combined, every company.
No.
Phantom Ventures is also on VTA's board. They're actually a division of Imperial Tobacco, I believe it is. It's either Imperial Tobacco or no, I think it is Imperial Tobacco. But they're like their vapor segment, you know, in which we've seen them buy up 49% of Cosmic Fog. You know, like it's all kind of interesting how it melds together.
Now, you mentioned that. I have heard and spoken to a few people.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is Big Tobacco, and here again, my ignorance, because I'm not paying attention to some things. Manufacturer of Blue.
Yep.
Bought Molecule Labs.
Is this something you've heard recently?
Yeah.
See, I'll say this without elaborating too far because I don't have all the information yet. There's a lot of underground rumblings within the industry about Molecule Labs. Like I said, we haven't seen anything put to paper yet.
No, nothing has hit the paper. On their website,
right.
my understanding
we tend not to speak on things until we see things put to paper. I mean, unless it's like something this serious, we'll probably get like a little mention here and there.
Yeah.
But which would be extremely interesting. Because I mean, Phantom, the new blue, which I have somewhere. Oh, here it is. They bought the Von Earl. And this is a Von Earl. Just with blue. And you know what's funny is I have a flavor called Honeymoon from Blue in here, which is milk and honey from Cosmic Fog.
Yes.
You know, so you see, it's interesting how they're putting all the pieces together. But
and the same thing.
If Phantom was to buy Molecule, look, I am a fan right now of Phantom. I never thought I'd be a fan of a big tobacco company, which they aren't really, but they are. They came out and said, we're not pulling flavors, you're fucking nuts. Because flavors are integral to adults transitioning, which is the absolute truth. They said, we'll follow all the regulatory gateways without issue, not a problem. And if they buy Molecule Labs, which tells us they're buying into the open source vapor industry, that's huge.
It is one of those things that I really have to follow up with. Because it is one of that, you hear it, there's never... And this is when people hear things, there's not an immediate way to have any kind of a verification. If you go to Molecule's website, you're seeing things of Blue. If you go to Blue's website and you look at one of their videos, right on their jacket, it says Molecule Labs. You know.
Right.
So there's these little pieces, and David Gorlitz, I know, has some information about that, and I'm sure that many other people do too. It's just I'm one of those harebrained guys that I listen enough probably to get my ass in trouble.
That's what I love. I'm waiting for the day I just disappear.
At the rate that now we're going to talk about that in a minute, because that's something that has just piqued my curiosity about you. But going back to Juul, how do you think the rest of the vapor industry is going to either view this, work with it, or are we going to see people going up in flames about it?
Yes and no. If they do in fact allow Altria to buy a portion of them, I will never ever ever say that it's lights out in this industry until the ship has sunk and I'm drowning with it. But that then there becomes Juul becoming our biggest enemy, because not only did they throw us under the bus federally multiple times,
Yeah.
now they're aligning with the very same organization that this industry started to get to be able to get away from. They're literally laying in bed with the enemy. So I think it's going to spell trouble for VTA. They're going to get a lot harder questions. They're going to be questioned a lot more. They're definitely going to have to do a lot of positive PR to be able to get out from underneath
if
that.
if they don't do some good PR work, it's going to sink their ship.
That's
hard.
Shutting your mouth at this point is not acceptable.
No.
If you shut your mouth and you don't even, I get it. It is still the old boys club where you got to pay to play. You want that information, you got to pay for that information. That time is gone. You take your money from your state trade groups and from your states to pay the lobbyist bills, which are the most important bills for a trade group, because they're the ones who actually have the connections to fight against what you're fighting.
Yep.
It's not for the information. The information needs to be made public, especially for the sake of an organization. I mean, VTA is in a very precarious predicament. Like, if I was VTA, I'd be sitting there going, "What the fuck do I do now?"
And I'm sure that their sphincter muscles have gone, and clenched up tighter than the drum. I was looking just at the chat real quick. Bill Tarling had said Fontum are also now a major funding member of CVA in Canada. He says huge conflicts of interest.
Well, see, that's a frightening thing about SAFADA right now is SAFADA just aligned themselves with NAVA, which NAVA is CVA, AMSA, and that's SAFADA, essentially, is the third wheel of that. And it's like AMSA, we all know what they did. They were the ones who sent the letters to the FDA saying, or to the legislature saying, don't support Cole Bishop, which at that point in time, we didn't want Cole Bishop to pass because it would have fucked up a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The later iterations that would have passed would have been very detrimental to us, especially in terms of battery safety and batteries that we're able to use.
Yes.
However, for them to think that they had the authority of the industry to write those letters was absolutely incorrect. And that's where a lot of people got pissed off by AMSA. I like AMSA for the simple fact that they're the first organization to come out with clear-cut standards for manufacturing processes, which is exactly what we need because every other industry has it. But then again, lining with CVA, I mean, thanks to good old Bill Tarling, I can stay very well kind of mentally equipped on what's going on in Canada, especially, and also I'm only a 15-minute walk from the Canadian border. I'm so far up in New York, it's not even funny.
Wow.
So I pay attention a lot in Canada because, like Canada just legalized recreational marijuana.
Right.
Our border patrol has been working 24/7 because we have a lot of people, a lot of Americans going over there, getting high for the weekend, trying to bring some stuff back, and they're getting in trouble.
Huh.
Like, it's developed a problem for up north New York.
Now, it's funny.
I'm sure it has for other parts too, like Buffalo and Rochester, because they're close to a port.
It's funny you say that because I had a sit-down meeting with a former police chief because I had questions for him about underage, T21 and stuff like this. And our conversation veered into the recreational use of marijuana in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, you're not hearing the horror stories that are happening in Colorado of people driving impaired,
Mm-hmm.
of people having problems going to work. He goes, you hear about the sales, you hear about the fun they're having, and you hear about the taxation they're getting. He
Yep.
goes, but the public is not hearing about the other things.
Yeah,
Just
people
like
getting
you
so
said.
high they can't get up in the morning.
Yeah.
People getting high and driving, which is just. Now, granted, I'm a huge proponent for legalized marijuana. I haven't smoked marijuana in over 12 years. However, the day it becomes legalized, I'm probably going to be a lot less aggressive. We'll just put it that way. Yeah.
See,
But
I'm on the other side of that fence. I
Are
am
ya?
the squarest, whitest guy left in America. I've never done any illicit drug. I've never done weed. I've done
Really?
nothing. I have smoked previously, and once every couple of years I sit down and get hammered on Patron.
right.
But that's it. And people go, "You've never had marijuana?" No. So there's so many things about that. You know, here's a good one. A year and a half ago, when Colorado was first looking at legalizing everything, I didn't know. My son Alex is now 21. 2 years ago he was 19. Turn around and I did mention something because I kept seeing 420. 420 this and 420 and references to 420 all over the place. And I finally looked at Alex. I said, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. He goes, "Are you serious, Dad?" I'm like, "Yeah. What is it?" And he told me, and I'm like, "Oh my God." Which harkened back to me hearing the same thing all the way back in high school in the mid-'80s. I'm like, Jesus. Anyhow, I keep looking at different states, and just like we had mentioned, the MSA, states are looking at legalizing weed for the sole purpose of taxation.
Yeah.
But then they're going to hit right behind it with all of the revenue stream from pulling people over, and they're not going to call it DUI. What are they going to call it?
We actually have that in New York. It's DUAI, driving under the ability impaired. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But that could benefit New York as well. If New York was to pass recreational marijuana, tax it decently, and see the same growth that Colorado and Canada has seen in terms of monetary coming in, they might just leave us the fuck alone.
It's possible. It would be nice to think that way.
Right. It's kind of a crapshoot, but hey, it's at this point, I take every little sliver of hope I can get.
Now, that, honest to God, leads me right in to a couple of questions that I've wanted to ask you for a long time.
Okay.
You and I have spoken or chatted on and off about, from my viewpoint and the way that I see things, that the industry is going to go to hell. It's going to get railroaded. It's going to get screwed. And by the time the PMTA process rolls around, it's going to die. That's the way that I've been looking at it. And you have been consistently on the other end of this chat going, no, that's not going to happen. And I've read posts that you have done telling people you don't know what in the fuck you're talking about. And I'm like, what did he put in his vape this morning? Come on. So it begs the question, what is it that you see, understand, or know that leads you to say the industry can survive?
So what I do for my day job is a good friend of mine started vape shops. We have 7 vape shops now, and I've kind of transitioned into doing all the compliance work because I started my own company, Vape Rescue, doing just that, compliance work for manufacturers, shops, distributors. From all the registration processes, and I've vetted labels for conventions before, like ECC out in Ontario. I actually went through, they sent me everybody's artwork, and I double checked it and said no, yes, no, yes, and I gave them reasons why, and it was good. But it's because I've started this business, and literally what I do every single night is I'm in front of my computer until 2 a.m. I'm reading regulatory processes. I'm looking up historical facts on how the cigarette industry was regulated, how the food industry was regulated in terms of the FDA. We're not doing anything different than any other industry. Cosmetics, food, pharma, you name it. They've all got to do ingredient listings. They've all got to do product listings. They've all got to go through HPHC testing, and they've all got to go through the PMTA process or some variation of it. And that's the important key. We've heard Gottlieb say numerous times, we understand that the tobacco PMTA process doesn't fit the vaping industry.
No. It's
And
like trying to drive a semi through a tunnel made for a bug.
Right. So, and we've had the trade orgs, a FDA especially. I will give them credit on this one. They literally beat that hammer into the head of the FDA. We can't afford this dumb shit that you've done for the last 20 years. We need a viable pathway to make it through. And, even some of my best friends don't believe this industry will survive. Hands down, they think the only thing that'll ever pass a PMTA is the Juul or closed pod devices, because there's too many variables to open source products.
I would agree. I would tend to agree with that.
Right.
Because you've got, I don't know how many thousands of open source RDAs, tanks, coils, God knows what. You've got a plethora of equipment.
Right. I mean, here's what I look at. I look at what Gottlieb says, and Gottlieb's main form of saying anything to anybody's on Twitter. So you follow his tweets, and a lot of my friends, I feel, are guilty of reading too far into shit, which 90% of the time you have to do in this industry to find out the truth. However, when it comes to Gottlieb, I look at what he says and take it on the surface level. So when he says that he's working on designing a fast-tracked PMTA process for the vapor industry, I think he means it. I think he knows what the vapor industry is. He had the controlling interest in Cure. He knows how much money we make. Obviously, he has access to all sorts of financial records from the vape industry that he can pull anytime he wants. And I feel that he really wants us to succeed. He has given us chance after chance after chance after chance. Most recent one being vape shops age gate better. We're going to pull flavored tobacco products out of convenience stores, and we want them sold in age verified locations, which is vape shops and head shops, funny enough.
Yeah.
With head shops, you have to be 18 or over or 21 and over to even enter the building. If we can, as an industry, it's not a foolproof plan. Don't get me wrong. We could die. The ship could sink. But I am that person who I will play my fiddle on that goddamn ship until I'm breathing water bubbles.
He's the player on the Titanic, folks.
Yes. If we get rid of the bullshit marketing, which we've seen today in a very huge way.
Oh my God. You bring that up, and that's the FDA shit.
And, myself and the Legion, we've been talking about this for going on 4 years now. You can find YouTube videos on our YouTube channel 4 years ago of us talking about bad labeling.
Yeah.
If you do that, you continually, and funny enough, this company today hit every single negative thing they could. You stay registered. You do your product registrations. You do your recipe submissions. You start saving for your HPHCs. Now, here's the thing about HPHCs, and I've heard two different scenarios on this. One I trust a bit more than the other. So, on one hand, I've heard the HPHC, which is the harmful or potentially harmful constituents testing. Basically, they're testing your e-liquid to see what impurities are in it, what type of chemical compounds they find, if they find any trace metals, alloys, things of that nature.
Right.
I've heard they're going to cost in between $700 to about $3,500 per flavor, which is completely doable if, yes, we're going to lose some e-liquid manufacturers that just can't afford that. But the bigger guys, say, like, we'll take, I don't know, Elysian Labs, for instance. They have the sales network enough to be able to afford doing the HPHC testing, which what a lot of people don't realize, all of the processes we've gone through to date are all part of the PMTA process. So your product registration, your ingredient submissions, your HPHCs, those all get filed with your PMTA. So we're going through the PMTA right now, so to speak. No, we're not at the most expensive part, but we do the right things for Gottlieb to give us that fast-tracked PMTA process that's not going to cost us our arm and a leg. Now, I've also heard that the HPHC could cost up to $30,000 per flavor, but I'll tell you why that is. Right now, there's only 20 labs in the world, and I'm not exaggerating that, 20 labs in the world that are qualified or have the licensing to do HPHC testing. Now, any chemist with a mass spectrometer and all the other equipment they need to do HPHC testing could jump right into it, no problem. If you had a third-party source that you could get that done, you can do it. Actually, there was some talk in New York. Well, a bigger company up here happens to know a chemist with that availability. And he's like, well, what if we came together and we bought the machinery ourselves and we hired him to do our HPHC testing, and it'd be a little more cost effective for everyone.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
absolutely
so
would. And that's the thing now is they are looking. Yep, Daddy's going to turn around and smack your butt. It's the one thing that we're looking at is a bottleneck. You know, because there are only so many labs. They're looking at a bottleneck to say, even if if 80% of the people went ahead and filed for their health docs, there's no way in hell now that 80% of the people are going to get them submitted in time.
well, that's the thing. A lot of people have chosen not to. And
True.
that's just the silly thing. Oh, I'm going to fight against this tyranny. There's no way in hell I'm going to do this. They're kicking and screaming on the floor like a 5-year-old. When if they just sat back, they took a nice deep breath, and they said, why do we have to do this? And the people who know what they're talking about, and I'll toot my own horn here, like myself, say, well, this is the same exact thing that all of the other industries have to go through. Why are we so special? You know, it's what food goes through. It's what pharma goes through and cosmetics goes through.
Yep.
It's simple. You know, the FDA is not going to take your proprietary recipes and sell them off. The FDA's website's so encrypted, they can barely gain access. It's literally just a huge file server room, which essentially should just be storage boxes with folders in it.
Yep.
Like they're not doing anything, but that's the thing. Just remaining compliant up to now has literally, if you did it yourself, cost you nothing but time.
And that's
there's
one thing.
people out there like myself who, if you really don't want to spend the time, you pay somebody to do it.
Yep. And that's the one thing. If people don't have the time to do it, then they do pay somebody. When are those health docs due?
Health documents have already been due. The health documents were due last November. Yeah, it was right around April of this year they were due. So we had the product submission deadline, which was supposed to be last September, and then I got moved back to November, and then I got moved back to December. Or no, that was 2 years ago actually. And then last November, the ingredient listings for small manufacturers were supposed to be due, but those got pushed back till this November.
Right.
And then the health documents were actually due around April of this year, which literally health documents, 4 sheets of paper, your name, company name, EIN number, FEI number, which is the number that the FDA uses to associate you in their database.
Right.
I have done health studies on my e-liquid. I have not done health studies on my e-liquid. Nobody's done health studies on their e-liquid, maybe except a few. Like I know 5 Pawns, if you sent your e-liquid in for testing for like diacetyl, acetyl, propanol, all that good shit, then yeah, you would attach those, send it in, call it a day.
Yep.
99% of this industry doesn't do that. Hasn't ever done that. So they literally click the checkbox. Nope. And they mail. All you got to do is mail it in certified snail mail. You're done.
Yep. I did
It costs
the
you
same
42
thing.
cents and a little bit of your time.
So
or however much a stamp is.
when are these next documents due?
HPHCs are due, believe next November. Same. They love the November 8th date. It's like their favorite date in the world.
I have
So companies
heard.
have a little under a year to save the money, get this done.
And I have heard from multiple people that many companies won't do it because they don't have the money, because they have a flavor vault that is as big as my bedroom and they can't afford it.
Trust me, some of the companies I've worked for have well over 800 flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Higgy Cigs, they're actually like you think they're a small mom and pop company, but they really aren't. They registered over 1.2 million SKUs with the FDA.
Oh my God.
They registered every flavor combination and every NIC level of incremental 1, every bottle size known to man. Like, just absolutely, I would hate to be them. Like, I told him that, the gentleman who owns it and his wife, you guys are fucking nuts. But that's the thing. It's not hard to do. It's not going to be hard to do. Yes, it's time. You're going to have to start putting some actual money into it, and you're not going to be able to keep every single flavor. I'm sorry. Look at Big Tobacco, all right? In all honesty, How many variations of cigarettes are there? 7, maybe 8 per company?
Yeah, well under 10.
Right. You got your full flavor, your light, which you can't call it that now.
Yep.
Full flavor, light, mild, and then you got like Marbs with like number 77 special blends or the new iced out and all that shit. Realistically speaking, we're going to in the e-liquid market especially, we're going to see a slowdown of anything. B, a lot of those new flavors that have come onto the market, they're going to go away. And we've seen that starting today when they did the very first enforcement of August 8th on an open source e-liquid manufacturer.
See?
If your doctored invoices aren't going to work, unless like they're rock solid, but they have 15 different ways of looking at if you were truthfully on the market before August 8th. Truthfully. It's amazing.
Yep. Here's the thing that pissed me off about the FDA today. I was glad to see that they're going after this company for all of their bullshit that they're putting out.
Right.
But do something more than send a letter saying, you have 30 days to be able to justify to us whatever, blah, blah. They know that they were in error. They know that they are not correct. They know, the FDA knows they have broken the law. Either fine the shit out of them or close the company down.
I don't think they have that regulatory authority yet. I think the CTP does, but I don't think the FDA does. The FDA is kind of their the other first thing we've seen is instead of 30 days or 90 days, this company was only given 15 days.
Yeah, they gave him 15 days.
And the owner actually, miraculously enough, decided to kind of chime in on some of our posts that we were putting up today about the company.
I read those.
And he said, we've had the FDA in here before. They've taken a look at the operation, and
they were here for 5 days.
Yeah, they were here for 5 days, and they say, we showed them this marketing, and they said absolutely not, and we pulled it from the market, and they said we could re-release it if we rebranded it, blah, 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 and I don't know why we're getting this letter today. And I'm sitting there going, you have literally gotten the worst warning letter to date in the vaping industry.
Mm-hmm.
You have gotten hit on every single regulatory point there could possibly be, and then some.
Yep.
And you're going to sit there and tell me that, the FDA was my best friend and we had steak together. Fuck you, you did.
Yeah. No, send him to jail. See, that's the part, because I'm a manufacturer and because I'm passionate about everything, don't send him a letter and just smack him on the hand. Now, I know that after 15 days, they can turn it over to the next body that can then just absolutely plow the shit out of these people and put them out of business. So I get it.
We are going to see that at some point.
Oh.
We're going to see one of these companies say, fuck the FDA. And then you're going to watch the CTP come in and they go, oh, yeah, you want that attitude? Okay, all of this product goes into the trash. We're seizing all of your assets. We're freezing your bank accounts.
Yep.
You need to provide us every single retailer you've ever sold a product to. And then we're going to go after them, and it's going to be in your name and their blood on your hands. It's going to be bad that day it comes, and I pray to God it doesn't. I know it's going to.
Yep, I know. I'm right there with you. I know it's coming around.
90% of this could be rectified by not having shit branding. Brand responsibly, people. It's not difficult. Look, I'm going to grab a random bottle of e-liquid off my shelf. Just so happens to be Elysian Labs Idle Hands. Okay. So does this label to me scream public health? No e-liquid label screams public health to me.
Nope.
But is there any imagery on there? Is there any candy, any fruit, any food, any... No.
It's nice.
No, there is not.
Nice and clean.
A little bit of a floral pattern in the background that you can't really see on the camera, I don't think.
Yeah, you can see it.
There you go. A little bit of a floral background, but it's kind of contrasting with the color of it. It has all the necessary warnings on it. Huge warnings. Oh, and if I could clear this up, just because I try and clear it up on any podcast I ever go on, I get asked a lot, or I see this comment a lot. Why does the e-liquid industry need to put this gigantic warning on there twice, but the cigarette warnings only need to go on this tiny little thing, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. So they were supposed to have 50% packaging warnings for the last 8 to 10 years, I think it was, maybe 5 years. However, they have this thing that the vapor industry doesn't have called money.
Yeah.
And they've been able to tie it up in legal litigation. However, just the other day, they got a little bit more stringent with their packaging. And now on the front of each cigarette package, it's a nice little pamphlet that fits in the cellophane. And it says, the FDA has told us, Laurel Lard Tobacco, blah, 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 or whatever the company is, that we have to disclose this information to you. You know, it's a bit bigger of a warning. So, A, they got it tied up in legal legislation. You still don't see the 50% warning. B, it's just, don't argue it. It is what it is. It's our regulation. It's our burden to bury. Just live with it. It's not going to affect your vaping experience at all. If anything, your kids are going to be less likely to touch it because there's a bigger warning.
Yeah. See, I'm the same way with ours. I don't even know how well those will show up in the lower lighting.
Right.
You
Perfect.
know? We had, and I would have to drag a bottle out. We started way back when, before the 8816. And because we were two-stone, we had two-stone moai, you know, the Easter Island heads and things like that. And we finally just said, we're going to bypass all this altogether. And we just stripped it down to just the bare essentials so that people can say, and we've got warnings in 2 different places, you know. Right. And it's follow what needs to be done in order to be able to stay on the market. And that letter that was sent out today, I was going to show pictures of it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to give them the joy of repeating that. For anybody that has not seen it, these labels look like major manufactured cereal products. You put it right next to the cereal box, and I'll be damned if you would have an easy time really telling a kid that they're not the same thing.
Right. It looks like those little cereal boxes that you can literally buy at a Sam's Club or a Costco.
Yeah.
Like, it's disgustingly egregious to it. Like, it literally is a mimic, complete and utter identical mimic of the bigger products.
Yep.
It's just the stupid shit. I mean, like, here's a bottle of our house e-liquid. You know, there's nothing fancy. It's got a city skyline built out of mods. Woohoo! But hey, sell the shit out of this. Why? Because people care about vaping. They don't care about what the fucking label looks like.
Yep.
I mean, sure, you might get a couple idiots that do, but like Tommy Smokes, he might care what a label looks like, but fuck Tommy Smokes.
Yeah.
And that kid killed us the couple weeks ago.
Last question that I've got.
Mm-hmm.
How much, and I know that you are very active in the Vaping Legion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find yourself at times butting heads with other people in the Legion because of your viewpoint on how things are versus the viewpoint of how other people may look at the same topic?
Yes, more so recently. I'm sure a lot of people, if you do follow the Legion, you've seen our debate show with me and Matt Cleaso from Purge Mods versus Sherwin Mena from the NCVC and Alan, who's just a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
I take the positions I take because of what I do in the industry, because of my compliance job and my compliance company. I actually find it a hobby to sit there and pore over just legal legislation and different FDA documents, even if it has nothing to do with the vaping industry. If I read it all, I might be able to understand better what's going on with our industry. You know, a lot of other people like Alan, he was a Juul user for quite a while. He converted a lot of smokers using the Juul. So he is very much for the product, whereas I'm looking at it from kind of a compliant angle and more of an activist angle going, they're killing us and you don't see this. You know, convenience stores historically don't have a good track record for age gating. I mean, hell, I used to buy weed out of the back of the local Valero. I mean, I'd buy cigarettes, I'd buy beer, and I'd motion over to the gentleman, and he'd motion back. He'd meet me in the back. He'd sell me fucking half an ounce. No problems.
Wow.
You know? And I'm in, like I said, Podunk, New York. Like, 2.5 hours away is the biggest, like, the next biggest city. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely been butting heads with some of my best friends. I mean, they're literally my brothers. Like, we've all met in person numerous times. If they needed anything, I'd be right there for them. But it really helps because A, we're so close, but then again, B, we can have those different viewpoints, and it helps us take a look at the whole situation versus just a part of the situation. You know, there was actually with Alan, there was one point where I messaged him and I said, you know, we were butting heads on Juul. and he said something was going to happen. I'm like, you're a bullshit liar. You don't even know what you're talking about. We were just going off each other. I messaged him the week later after exactly what he said would happen happened. I said, you know what? I apologize, and I retract my remarks.
Mm.
You know, we do come out as brothers still. We don't hate each other. We can have great arguments and great debates, and at the end of the day, we're still best friends. But I think it's important for both of those opposing views to be seen. I mean, like, we have some people who are very vocal in the industry preaching, give to your federal groups, give to your state groups, you know, throw all your money, every last dollar should be going to them. And I'm sitting there going, no, they should really save a lot of money for HPHC testing if they want to survive. Like, okay, you guys might have a real great plan into place, but guess what? You know, that actual hardcore regulation that's in place that's not going anywhere doesn't give a shit about your plan of action.
No.
You know, and
here's one more.
Mhm.
Since you mentioned, what are your views of any company going to flavor shots? Not short fill bottles, but actually having a shot of flavor and another bottle that has the PG and VG and then a Nick additive.
It doesn't matter. And why? Is because the FDA was so kind enough to say intended end use, which is three words that most people overlook or don't understand what they mean. That's how they were trying to regulate like batteries and hardware as tobacco products, but
Right.
ultimately they couldn't. Is because if it's the intended end use to be an ENDS device or go into an ENDS device or be part of an ENDS device, they try and say that it's tobacco. So in terms of e-liquid, unless you're buying VG and PG because you're making sex lube and you can prove you're making sex lube, it's not going to fly. If you're selling Nick shots, God damn it, I hope you have the best liability insurance company in the world. Because one wrong thing and that's all going away. And if you honestly look at the regulations, I am fairly positive Nick shots aren't a legal thing.
Really?
I really don't think they are. I'd have to look back in my notes as to what makes me think that, because I haven't talked on this topic in so long. My company, actually, our investors, where they were asking, oh, what if we do 50 mil short fills with Nick shots like they do over here in the UK and everything? And I'm like, you know, I did my research and I presented to them. I said, yeah, I don't think that's going to work, guys. Like, it's kind of, because that's the thing. Oh, now I remember. That's the thing. So with our labeling restrictions, we have to list the Nick level direct on the bottle. You know, so even if it's 0 milligram, it has to say 0 milligram per milliliter, and it has to have that other abridged warning. If it's any nicotine, it has to have the original warning, say 3 milligrams, 6 milligram, whatever. So if you're selling a 0 milligram 50 ml bottle, and then you're the same company that's marketing a Nick pack, the intended end use is there that product you sell and that product you sell are to go together. It doesn't matter whether the consumer's doing it. It's the fact that you're offering that as a retail option together. Now I think that might be how companies like Sapphire are getting away with it. So say Sapphire, they're a Nick pack company.
Right.
If I bought Sapphire Nick and I sold a 0 milligram bottle of 50 mil and I have it registered and I've done the ingredient listing and I sell it as such, and the customer just so happens to buy that 0 milligram 50 mil and they happen to buy a Sapphire Nick pack, they can't really say that my intended end use was for the consumer to put that Nick pack in that bottle of juice, because I sold that bottle of juice properly the way it needed to be done.
Yeah, it sounds like there's going to be people, and I've been reading different aspects. I've read some of the things that people are saying, you know, short fills and flavor shots, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds wonderful, but why do I get the feeling that somebody that's doing that is just bending over and asking, you know, for the FDA to come by with a dong that's about 45 feet long?
Look at New Jersey. They just got a 10-cent per mil tax. I know of a ton of shops down there who are doing short fills, who are selling Nick packs, or buying more zeros from third-party manufacturers and just selling the zeros to skirt the tax. You think your state's really going to let that shit fly for a long time? I don't think so. Not to mention, look what they just did with bulk caffeine sales. You now have to be a business with a business license to buy bulk caffeine. You don't think they're not going to do the same thing with nicotine?
I've told people that. People turn around and they look at me and say, well, I'll just DIY. That's wonderful, I love people that do it. I have flavors here at the house. When I get a burr up my ass and I want something different, I'll go make something.
Right.
You know? Or actually what happens is I'll ask Alex, hey, can you come up with a decent flavor that mine turns out like puke or piss or something, but
Right.
he's the one that does, he's the brains. But I keep telling people, you don't understand. You will no longer, at some point, be able to buy the 1,000 milligram little liter. You will not be able to buy the 100 milliliter or the 100 milligram. You might be able to buy 48. Maybe. And those are going to be in small quantities.
I mean, they're going to force you to have a business license. Oh, but
Yes.
wait, once you get a business license, now if you make an e-liquid, you're introducing a new product to the market, which you can't do because of the deeming regulations.
Yep.
And
Even
on
if
top
you
of
mix
that,
it for
you're gonna have
your
to
own
pay
consumption.
Right. Are you going to pay taxes for your own consumption? I don't fucking think so.
Yeah. Something tells me not. But
So
that's
as shitty of it is to say, we're going to see probably 50% of this industry wiped out. Mom and pop vape shops are no longer going to be able to have a house liquid line unless for some reason they're like super millionaires or they're really good financially and they put the money aside for the HPHC testing and the PMTAs. Yeah, there's a lot of variables for this industry's survival, but what's the point being negative? You know, I honestly feel that we're going to survive. We have the tools, we have the capability, we know what we need to do. We just need to stop being shitbags.
Yep.
Stop the terrible labeling. Stop trying to find loopholes in every single regulation possible. Just do things the right way, you know, and market responsibly. Be adults. Stop kicking and screaming on the floor like a 5-year-old. And we have a good shot at winning this.
See, and that's the one thing that with you, listening to you and talking, because it's all right. We'll stop talking vaping just for a second. Bring your little one in. We're not talking vaping right now. Where's your little one?
Oh, she's running off now.
Oh, no. You can't do that. If you're going to stick your arms in there, you got to at least come over and say hi.
Yeah, 4 daughters, man. It's chaotic at any given point in time.
You have 4 girls?
4 girls from the ages of 15 all the way down to 8.
I am so sorry.
It's God's punishment, but I
Yeah.
tell you what,
God's
they're gonna
sense of
have
humor.
my brains and my veracity, and they're gonna have their mother's looks, and they're gonna run some shit. So I'm not too worried about it.
So we should feel bad for the guys that they're going to marry.
I'd feel bad for the world. I mean, if they run a corporation or something, it's gonna be like Iron Fist run.
Oh, shit. All right, sir. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for the evening. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk with me.
Absolutely,
do.
anytime. Truth be told, I absolutely love doing this. I love talking to anybody I can about vaping, whether it's a smoker or it's a consumer or somebody who has been doing this for the last 15 years since Hanlick first released his first e-cig idea. I love vaping. I love everything about vaping, and oddly enough, I love the regulatory bullshit we have to go through. It's a hobby, so.
Well, that makes one of us.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one.
Yeah, the rest of us are wanting Tylenol and all the happy shit that goes with that. Homework. Where's that
it's
art
actually,
class?
the newest edition of the Empire State Mason from the Grand Lodge in New York of Freemasons.
Really?
Yep, I joined the Freemasons probably about close to 4 years ago.
I run into more and more everywhere that I go.
Oh yeah, once you become one, you see them all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm trying to remember. It has been... 25 years ago. The night before my daughter was born. Old Erie Lodge number 3 in Ohio.
Very nice.
All right, sir. Thank you again for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping that people can digest some of what they have heard.
Absolutely. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to message me.
So if people did want to get in touch with you and talk to you about what you do or to talk about the lead, how can they get in touch with you?
The best way is to message me directly. You could always message my business page, Vape Rescue, or message anybody in the Legion. They're more than happy to talk and be nice. And you see us on a post. if it's an educational post, ask educational questions. If we're going off on somebody, it's probably best to not speak a word. But no, we're open books. Anytime you need to reach out to any of us, you just message us and we're there.
Awesome. Everybody, Matthew Salter up in New York. If you have questions, get in touch with him. He's there, and I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Hey, absolutely. We'll do it again sometime soon. But I have a feeling that in a short period of time, it's going to be Tristan and possibly a group of it. That might be a nice way to have a fiasco party.
Oh, yeah. It's always a party when Legion's involved.
Yeah, that's it, too. All right, everybody. Mike Peterson with Vaping in the Mic. I'll catch everybody again next week. But until then, I hope everybody has a great weekend. And Matt, have a great night.
You too as well.